Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Daily Dose of English. I'm Jessica, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. In today's lesson, we're going to learn something very practical and useful. We're going to talk about daily habits. Daily habits. Now you repeat. What are daily habits? Daily habits are the things you do every day, again and again. For example, brushing your teeth, drinking coffee, checking your phone. These are habits. Everyone has habits, good habits and bad habits. And today, you will learn how to talk about your habits in English. Why is this important? Because when you meet someone new, they often ask about your daily life. What do you usually do in the morning? How often do you exercise? Do you drink coffee every day? These are common questions, and after today's lesson, you will be ready to answer them with confidence. We will learn useful vocabulary, practice real sentences, and do shadowing exercises together. Shadowing means you listen to me, then you repeat exactly what I say. This helps your speaking become faster, clearer, and more natural. Are you ready? Let's begin. First, let's learn some very important words. These words help us talk about how often we do something. We call them frequency words. Frequency words. Now you repeat. Here are the most common frequency words in English. Always. This means 100% of the time, every single time, always, always. Now you repeat. For example, I always brush my teeth before bed. This means I do it every night, no exceptions. I always brush my teeth before bed. I always brush my teeth before bed. Now you repeat. Usually, this means most of the time, about 80 or 90%. Usually, usually. Now you repeat. For example, I usually wake up at 7 a.m. This means on most days I wake up at 7, but sometimes maybe 6:30 or 7:15. I usually wake up at 7 a.m. I usually wake up at 7 a.m. Now you repeat. Often. This means many times, maybe 60 or 70%. Often, often. Now you repeat. For example, I often drink tea in the afternoon. I often drink tea in the afternoon. Now you repeat. Sometimes this means not very often, maybe 30 or 40%. Sometimes, sometimes. Now you repeat. For example, I sometimes eat chocolate after dinner. Not every day, just occasionally. I sometimes eat chocolate after dinner. I sometimes eat chocolate after dinner. Now you repeat. Rarely. This means almost never, very few times, rarely, rarely. Now you repeat. For example, I rarely stay up late. This means I almost never do it, maybe once a month. I rarely stay up late. I rarely stay up late. Now you repeat. Never. This means 0%, not even one time. Never, never. Now you repeat. For example, I never smoke. This means I don't do it at all. 0 times. I never smoke. I never smoke. Now you repeat. Perfect. Now you know the frequency words. Let's practice putting them in sentences. When we talk about habits, we use a simple sentence structure. Listen carefully. Subject plus frequency word plus verb plus rest of sentence. Let me show you. The subject is who does the action. Usually I, you, he, she, we, or they. The frequency word comes after the subject. Words like always, usually, often. Then comes the verb, the action word. Then the rest of the sentence, any extra information. Here's an example. I usually drink coffee in the morning. Let me break it down. I equals subject. Usually equals frequency word. Drink equals verb. Coffee in the morning equals rest of sentence. I usually drink coffee in the morning. I usually drink coffee in the morning. Now you repeat. Let's try another one. She always checks her phone before breakfast. She equals subject. Always equals frequency word. Checks equals verb. Her phone before breakfast equals rest. She always checks her phone before breakfast. She always checks her phone before breakfast. Now you repeat. One more. They never eat fast food. They equals subject. Never equals frequency word. Eat equals verb. Fast food equals rest. They never eat fast food. They never eat fast food. Now you repeat. Now there's one small grammar note. With he, she, or it, we need to add is to the verb. For example, I drink coffee. He drinks coffee. I check my phone. She checks her phone. I eat breakfast. It eats food. For animals, let's practice this. He always drinks water with meals. He always drinks water with meals. Now you repeat. She often exercises in the evening. She often exercises in the evening. Now you repeat. Great work! You're learning the pattern. Now let's learn vocabulary for common daily habits. I'll teach you the words, then we'll use them in sentences. Morning habits. Wake up. To stop sleeping and open your eyes. Wake up. Wake up. Now you repeat. Get up. To leave your bed and stand. Get up. Get up. Now you repeat. Brush your teeth. To clean your teeth with a toothbrush. Brush your teeth. Brush your teeth. Now you repeat. Take a shower. To wash your body with water. Take a shower. Take a shower. Now you repeat. Have breakfast. To eat your morning meal. Have breakfast. Have breakfast. Now you repeat. During the day, go to work. To travel to your job. Go to work. Go to work. Now you repeat. Check emails. To read your electronic messages. Check emails. Check emails. Now you repeat. Have lunch. To eat your midday meal. Have lunch. Have lunch. Now you repeat. Take a break. To stop working and rest. Take a break. take a break. Now you repeat. Evening habits. Come home. To return to your house. Come home. Come home. Now you repeat. Cook dinner. To prepare your evening meal. Cook dinner. Cook dinner. Now you repeat. Watch TV. To look at television programs. Watch TV. Watch TV. Now you repeat. Go to bed. To lie down to sleep. Go to bed. Go to bed. Now you repeat. Now let's use these in full sentences with frequency words. Now it's your turn to practice. I will say a sentence slowly, then you repeat after me. Ready? I always wake up early. I always wake up early. Now you repeat. She usually brushes her teeth twice a day. Let me say that again in parts. She usually brushes her teeth twice a day. She usually brushes her teeth twice a day. Now you repeat. We often have coffee in the morning. We often have coffee in the morning. Now you repeat. He sometimes takes a shower at night. He sometimes takes a shower at night. Now you repeat. They rarely eat breakfast at home. They rarely eat breakfast at home. Now you repeat. I never go to bed after midnight. I never go to bed after midnight. Now you repeat. My brother always checks his phone first thing in the morning. Let me break this down. My brother always checks his phone first thing in the morning. My brother always checks his phone first thing in the morning. Now you repeat. Excellent. You're doing great. Now let's practice talking about other people's habits. My mother usually makes tea after dinner. My mother usually makes tea after dinner. Now you repeat. My best friend often calls me in the evening. My best friend often calls me in the evening. Now you repeat. My colleagues sometimes have lunch together. My colleagues sometimes have lunch together. Now you repeat. Now let's learn how to ask questions about habits. This is very useful when you meet someone new. The question pattern is do, does plus subject plus frequency word plus verb plus rest. For example, do you usually wake up early? Do you usually wake up early? Now you repeat. Let me teach you more question examples. Do you often exercise? Do you often exercise? Now you repeat. Does she always drink coffee? Does she always drink coffee? Now you repeat. Do they sometimes work on weekends? Let me say that in parts. Do they sometimes work on weekends? Do they sometimes work on weekends? Now you repeat. We can also ask with how often. This is a very common question. How often means what frequency or how many times. How often do you exercise? How often do you exercise? Now you repeat. How often does he check his email? How often does he check his email? Now you repeat. How often do you eat fast food? How often do you eat fast food? Now you repeat. To answer these questions, you can say, I exercise 3 times a week. I exercise 3 times a week. Now you repeat. Or, I rarely eat fast food. I rarely eat fast food. Now you repeat. Or, every day, every day. Now you repeat. Now I want to tell you about my daily routine. Listen carefully, and after each sentence, you can repeat. This is great shadowing practice. Every morning, I always wake up at 6:30. Every morning, I always wake up at 6:30. Now you repeat. I usually feel a little tired at first. I usually feel a little tired at first. Now you repeat. So I always drink a glass of water right away. So I always drink a glass of water right away. Now you repeat. Then I take a quick shower to wake up. Then I take a quick shower to wake up. Now you repeat. After my shower, I often listen to English podcasts. Let me say that in parts. After my shower, I often listen to English podcasts. After my shower, I often listen to English podcasts. Now you repeat. I always brush my teeth for 2 full minutes. I always brush my teeth for 2 full minutes. Now you repeat. For breakfast, I usually have toast and eggs. For breakfast, I usually have toast and eggs. Now you repeat. I never skip breakfast because it gives me energy. Let me break this down. I never skip breakfast because it gives me energy. I never skip breakfast because it gives me energy. Now you repeat. Sometimes I add fruit like a banana or an apple. Sometimes I add fruit like a banana or an apple. Now you repeat. I always check my schedule while I eat. I always check my schedule while I eat. Now you repeat. Then I leave the house at about 8 o'clock. Then I leave the house at about 8 o'clock. Now you repeat. Great, that's my morning routine. Can you describe your morning routine using frequency words? Try it. Now let's listen to a conversation between 2 friends, Sarah and Mike. They're talking about their daily habits. After each line, you can repeat. Sarah, hey Mike, do you usually wake up early? Hey Mike, do you usually wake up early? Now you repeat. Mike, yeah, I always wake up at 6 a.m. Yeah, I always wake up at 6 a.m. Now you repeat. Sarah, wow, that's early. Do you exercise in the morning? Let me say that in parts. Wow, that's early. Do you exercise in the morning? Wow, that's early. Do you exercise in the morning? Now you repeat. Mike, sometimes. I often go running 3 times a week. Sometimes. I often go running 3 times a week. Now you repeat. Sarah, that's great. I rarely exercise in the morning. That's great. I rarely exercise in the morning. Now you repeat. Sarah, I usually go to the gym after work. I usually go to the gym after work. Now you repeat. Mike, how often do you go? How often do you go? Now you repeat. Sarah, about 4 times a week. About 4 times a week. Now you repeat. Mike, nice. Do you always cook dinner at home? Nice. Do you always cook dinner at home? Now you repeat. Sarah, no, I sometimes order food when I'm too tired. Let me break this down. No, I sometimes order food when I'm too tired. No, I sometimes order food when I'm too tired. Now you repeat. Mike, me too. I never cook on Fridays. Me too. I never cook on Fridays. Now you repeat. Sarah, Friday is pizza night for me. Friday is pizza night for me. Now you repeat. Perfect. Did you notice how they used frequency words naturally in conversation? That's exactly how you should use them too. Now let's talk about good habits and bad habits. Good habits help us. Bad habits can hurt us. Let's learn some examples. Good habits. I always drink water when I wake up. This is healthy. I always drink water when I wake up. I always drink water when I wake up. Now you repeat. She usually reads before bed. Reading is good for your brain. She usually reads before bed. She usually reads before bed. Now you repeat. We often walk instead of driving. Walking is good exercise. We often walk instead of driving. We often walk instead of driving. Now you repeat. He always eats vegetables with dinner. Vegetables are very healthy. He always eats vegetables with dinner. He always eats vegetables with dinner. Now you repeat. Bad habits. I sometimes skip breakfast. This isn't healthy. Let me say it in parts. I sometimes skip breakfast. This isn't healthy. I sometimes skip breakfast. This isn't healthy. Now you repeat. He often stays up too late. Sleep is very important. He often stays up too late. He often stays up too late. Now you repeat. They usually eat fast food for lunch. This isn't very healthy. They usually eat fast food for lunch. They usually eat fast food for lunch. Now you repeat. She always forgets to drink water. We need to drink water every day. She always forgets to drink water. She always forgets to drink water. Now you repeat. Now, here's an important tip. If you want to talk about changing a bad habit, you can say, I'm trying to stop. I'm trying to stop. Now you repeat. For example, I'm trying to stop eating sugar. I'm trying to stop eating sugar. Now you repeat. Or you can say, I want to start. I want to start. Now you repeat. For example, I want to start exercising more. I want to start exercising more. Now you repeat. Now let's practice some longer, more natural sentences. These sound very natural in real conversations. On weekdays, I usually wake up early, but on weekends, I always sleep in. Let me say that in parts. On weekdays, I usually wake up early, but on weekends, I always sleep in. On weekdays, I usually wake up early, but on weekends, I always sleep in. Now you repeat. I try to exercise every day, but sometimes I'm too tired. Let me break this down. I try to exercise every day, but sometimes I'm too tired. I try to exercise every day, but sometimes I'm too tired. Now you repeat. My sister never eats meat because she's vegetarian. My sister never eats meat because she's vegetarian. Now you repeat. We rarely go out during the week, but we often go out on Friday nights. In parts. We rarely go out during the week, but we often go out on Friday nights. We rarely go out during the week, but we often go out on Friday nights. Now you repeat. I'm trying to create better habits this year. I'm trying to create better habits this year. Now you repeat. Let me tell you a short story about Maria. She's trying to change her habits. Listen and repeat. Maria wants to be healthier. Maria wants to be healthier. Now you repeat. Before, she always ate fast food for lunch. Before, she always ate fast food for lunch. Now you repeat. She rarely exercised, maybe once a month. She rarely exercised, maybe once a month. Now you repeat. She often stayed up late watching TV. She often stayed up late watching TV. Now you repeat. But last month she decided to change. But last month she decided to change. Now you repeat. Now she usually prepares healthy meals at home. Let me say that in parts. Now she usually prepares healthy meals at home. Now she usually prepares healthy meals at home. Now you repeat. She always goes to the gym 3 times a week. She always goes to the gym 3 times a week. Now you repeat. She never stays up past 11 p.m. anymore. She never stays up past 11 p.m. anymore. Now you repeat. Maria says she feels much better now. Maria says she feels much better now. Now you repeat. Sometimes change is difficult, but it's worth it. Let me break this down. Sometimes change is difficult, but it's worth it. Sometimes change is difficult, but it's worth it. Now you repeat. Great job following Maria's story. Can you think about habits you want to change? Wow! Look at how much you've learned today. Let's quickly review the most important points. First, you learned frequency words. Always, usually, often, sometimes, rarely, and never. These words help you talk about how often you do something. Second, you learned the sentence pattern. Subject plus frequency word plus verb plus rest. For example, I usually drink coffee in the morning. Third, you learned lots of vocabulary for daily habits. Wake up, brush your teeth, have breakfast, go to work, and many more. Fourth, you practiced asking questions. Do you usually? And how often do you? And finally, you practiced real conversations and stories using all these new words and patterns. Now here's your homework. Yes, I'm giving you homework, but it's fun homework. I want you to do 3 things. Number 1, write 5 sentences about your daily habits using frequency words. For example, I always drink water in the morning. Number 2, record yourself speaking these sentences. Listen back and try to speak clearly and naturally, just like we practiced today. Number 3, try to use these frequency words when you speak English with others. Practice makes perfect. Remember, my friend, learning English is a journey. You don't need to be perfect today. You just need to practice a little bit every day. Even 5 minutes of practice is better than nothing. You're already doing great by watching this video and repeating with me. If you enjoyed this lesson, please subscribe to Daily Dose of English. We make lessons like this every week to help you speak English naturally and confidently. Click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a lesson. And hey, leave a comment below and tell me, what's one habit you do every day? Write it in English. For example, I always drink coffee in the morning. Or, I usually watch English videos before bed. I love reading your comments, and it's great practice for you. Thank you so much for learning with me today. You did an amazing job. Keep practicing, keep speaking. And remember, every day is a new chance to improve your English. I'm Tom from Daily Dose of English, and I'll see you in the next lesson. Keep learning, keep growing, and keep believing in yourself. Bye for now, my friend.